bolster the North Korean defences there. It's really going to be interesting to see how this relationship works out and when the phone call is placed between Barack Obama and Hu Jintao and what they say to each other, John.
Well, the Chinese have often complained that Washington puts too much emphasis, if you like, on Beijing's influence over Pyongyang. That at the end of the day, the North Koreans will do what the North Koreans want to do, despite, you know, the so-called influence that Beijing may or may not have over Pyongyang. So it then gets back to this question that if there is a regime in turmoil, if it is threatened with collapse, how far can the Chinese go and what can they actually do to ensure that there is a smooth transition of leadership and that the entire regime doesn't implode?
Well, China always defends China's interests. China's sovereignty, China's territorial integrity, China's interests are always paramount when it comes to the Chinese leadership. To the extent that that impacts on Chinese interests, they're obviously going to be very, very vigilant and trying to work very hard to contain things on their side of the border. But China and North Korea do have a close relationship. It's been described in the past as being like lips and teeth. That's how close it is. It's the closest relationship that North Korea has, and it's historically based. You know, during the Korean War, when China sent volunteers, so-called, to head across the border and to fight with the North Koreans to drive the United States and South Korean forces back when it looked as though they were heading towards Pyongyang, was a decisive move.
Stan,
China has a lot at stake.
If I can interrupt, Stan, Stan, I just want to interrupt you just for a moment. My apologies. We have Christiane Amanpour on the line. We are welcoming her back to our network. She joins us now on the line. Christiane, you were in Pyongyang in North Korea during a very hopeful time when they destroyed that water cooler tower at the reactor there. Things have changed markedly since then, and now many people are wondering what will the future hold in the coming weeks now that Kim Jong Il is dead?
Well, that's exactly right. We were there with a team in 2008, first with the New York Philharmonic, and it was around the time when there were negotiations going on between North Korea and the United States. And they came to fruition in June of 2008, when, you're right, we saw the nuclear tower, the water cooling tower at the Yongbyon plant blown up. But it was a moment of hope then, which rapidly came to an end in the summer of 2008, because apparently at about that time, most people suspect that Kim Jong Il suffered a stroke. As his health deteriorated, negotiations fell apart, and there have basically been none since then, except for there are reports that over the last several months, the North Koreans and the United States have been talking. There were reports that potentially a food deal could be announced, a nutrition deal between the United States and North Korea this week, potentially. And there were reports, as yet not completely confirmed, but that there might be some deal, some movement on a nuclear deal with North Korea, again, agreeing to suspend their enrichment activities. But again, this has not yet been announced, but that was something that certainly United States negotiators, who had met several times with North Korean negotiators over the past several months, both in Geneva and in Beijing, had hoped to be able to bring to a fruition.
And Christiane, everyone is now looking to the heir apparent, Kim Jong-un, a man who we know very little about. We think he is in his late 20s, that he likes basketball. We heard Mike Chinoy giving us a few more details that he is a quiet, polite man. But is this the young man with very little experience, the man who can essentially create the cult of personality as his father and his grandfather did?
Well, it's probably unlikely that he will be able to do that. Even Kim Jong-il was not able to maintain the cult of personality that his own father did, Kim Il-sung. And certainly when Kim Jong-il nominated his young son to take over, people are concerned. He's very young, he hasn't got that much experience that we know of, and he's going to be taking over, we presume, a nuclear nation. We will have to wait and see. The issue here is whether it will promote more hardline policies from some of the old guard, whether they will sort of, you know, circle the wagons around this young man, and whether it will put a stop to some of these negotiations that were going on with the United States, or whether they will be able to go through nonetheless.